14. The birth of the United Nations. The United Nations is an international organization of countries which was founded to promote world peace and cooperation. It was founded after the end of World War II. Main aims of the United Nations. The main aim of the United Nations is to maintain world peace. This in turn helps encourage business and international trade. The United Nations or UN provides a forum for countries to promote their views and settle conflicts without violence. It allows the countries to solve major world problems like poverty, disease, and environmental degradations. It promotes economic and social progress in developing countries. It helps coordinate the work of hundreds of agencies and programs both within its own organization and outside it. The birth of the United Nations. The Industrial Revolution started in England and soon spread to other nations like Germany, France, and Portugal. These industrialized countries needed two things, namely the raw materials for manufacturing and the new markets to sell the goods manufactured by them. They got both their purposes solved in the non-industrialized Asian and African countries. Soon they started colonizing these countries to make themselves wealthy. As a result, they became jealous of each other and wanted their own empires to flourish. They started fighting among themselves, which finally led to a great war. This war was called the First World War. It broke out in 1914 and lasted for over 4 years. Many cities were devastated, millions of innocent people and soldiers lost their lives. As a result, there arose scarcity of food and everything. In the late 18th century, a German philosopher, Immanuel Kant, had proposed a federation of League of the world's nations. Kant believed that such a federation would enable the countries to unite and be able to punish the nation that committed an act of aggression. Kant also felt that the League would also protect the rights of small nations that often become prey in the hands of larger countries. Kant's idea came to life after World War I. Horrified by the devastation caused by war, countries were inspired to come together and work towards peace. They formed the League of Nations to achieve that goal. The League had a total of 63 member nations, including some of the world's greatest powers like France and the United Kingdom, Italy, Germany, Japan, and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. But the League was not successful because it had two major flaws. One of the world's most powerful countries, the USA, was not its member. The League members were not willing to oppose aggression by Japan, Italy, and Germany in 1930s. As a result, this aggression led to the Second World War, which lasted from 1939 to 1945. The League failed, but the idea of the League did not die. In 1941, the US President Franklin D. Roosevelt and British Prime Minister Winston Churchill signed the Atlantic Charter, in which they pledged to work towards a more effective system to maintain world peace and promote cooperation. In 1942, the representatives of the Allies, the World War II coalition of 26 countries fighting against Germany and Japan, signed a declaration. In this declaration, they accepted the principles of the Atlantic Charter. After a year, 4 of the Allies, the United States, the United Kingdom, the Soviet Union, and China, agreed to establish a general international organization. The 4 countries met in 1944 at the Dumbarton Oaks Estate in Washington, D.C. and drafted a charter for the new organization. They called the new league the United Nations. Finally, the United Nations was born in the year 1945. The name United Nations was coined by the President Roosevelt of the USA. A set of rules and regulations called the Charter of the United Nations was made at a conference in San Francisco, USA. It was signed by 50 member countries including India on 24 October 1945. This day is celebrated as UN Day. The UN was founded to promote peace and prevent another world war. To encourage continued US involvement, the UN placed its headquarters in New York City. To reassure the world's most powerful countries that it would not threaten their sovereignty, the UN gave them veto power over its most important actions. The countries that received their veto power were the United States, United Kingdom, France, the Soviet Union, and China. Main principles. There were a few principles set in the Charter of the UN. All the member countries must agree with these principles to help the UN achieve its goals. The principles are as follows. All the member countries should respect the sovereignty and rights of each other. Threats and the use of force should be avoided. Only peaceful means should be used to settle disagreements. They must support and cooperate with the UN in all its activities. The objectives of the UN. The main objectives of the UN are to maintain international peace and security and to settle disputes between the member states by peaceful means, to develop friendly relations among nations with equal rights for all, to improve the conditions of the people of the world peacefully in cooperation with other nations, to promote respect for human rights and support the freedom of all people, without discrimination on the grounds of race, sex, religion, and language, to provide a meeting place where all members can work together to achieve these common goals. Today, 193 countries are members of the UN. Membership of the UN enables nations to bring their problems to public attention. An important achievement of the UN was the adoption of the Charter of Economic Rights in 1974. Star fact: the United Nations has prepared a list of human rights called the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It was adopted on 10th December 1948. This day is celebrated as the Human Rights Day all over the world. The flag of the UN has a world map surrounded by olive branches with a light blue background. Olive branches symbolize peace. Now Russia has the veto power instead of the Soviet Union.